Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of the Premier Football Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rafe Garland, joined by a very festive Joe Doherty today. Joe, you've got the Christmas clobber on today, the Christmas mug.
I do, yeah. Coffee out of the Christmas mug and got Rudolph on. I love Christmas. Awful football news, as is the case every week. So anything that can make me a little cheerier on a Monday morning.
And what's in the mug? Have you strengthened it this morning to get you through the week, or?
I thought about it, but it's not even 10 o'clock yet, so it's just black filter coffee. In fact, I was thinking to go for espresso, but nah, I just went for filter coffee so I can keep on topping it up as we go on, man.
Yeah, brilliant. You were saying there, sorry, before we came on air, something about an espresso machine.
Well, I think that I need one, Rafe, because I've become quite partial towards espresso martinis on a Friday afternoon after work is about to stop. But the issue I have is that I have a mocha pot, and as anyone who has a mocha pot will know, it makes about 3 or 4 good-sized shots of espresso. However, if you're making espresso martinis, this is somewhat of a commitment, and it means that unless you have guests around, which is of course not really possible at the moment with COVID, you're committing yourself to about 4 espresso martinis, which is just, I think 1 is more than enough. They're absolutely fantastic, but 4 keeps you fucking wired for hours. It's effectively, one of our friends gave a great quote to me the other day on Instagram, saying that it's effectively a posh Jaeger bomb, an espresso martini. So if you're having 4 of them, it keeps you up a little bit too late. So I need to be investing in an espresso machine, man.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, there's an idea for your Christmas present. Anyway, look, there's only one place to start talking about the football. Obviously, the big game last night. Everybody's talking about it this morning. Leicester's 3-0. No, I'm only messing. Go on, fill us in on Arsenal.
I'm going to try and give some points that we haven't mentioned over the past few weeks, and I'll do the same next week because I can't see any results other than a draw.
We said last week that of Arsenal's upcoming 5 fixtures, Burnley was the only one that they looked like they had a shot of winning. We then agreed that they didn't look like they had a shot of winning any of them, and it turns out that we were right.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Looking at the fixture list, Southampton, Everton, Chelsea coming up, there's no way Arsenal are even scoring a goal against those teams. So the best they can hope for is a couple of 0-0 draws.
Well, hang on. They might score one in their own net.
They might, yeah. That was a great flick-on header from Aubameyang, wasn't it? I mean, why can't he do that? Why can't he do that in the opposing box? We have tons of corners and crosses.
Am I right in saying that in the Premier League he's now scored a penalty and an own goal?
No, he's scored 2 goals and an own goal, including 1 penalty.
Okay.
Well, it's dire. It's his worst run of form ever.
I think it's Arsenal's worst run of form since the early 80s, is it?
It is since the 1970s in terms of league position, and it's the first time Arsenal have lost 4 home games on the bounce since 1959.
Yikes!
Going back over 60 years. I mean, we talk about Tottenham's title woes going back 60 years, but Arsenal are in a run of form that goes back 60 years. It's just appalling. Do you know what I was thinking though? You know, when you think of teams that are greater than the sum of their parts, I think you could probably think of Alex Ferguson's late era Manchester United teams. I had the Ashes 2005 England team, the cricket team in mind, who were definitely not better than their Australian counterparts, but together, the collective unit, they were just unbelievable. And
Leicester
Arsenal
City,
are the opposite
2016.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Arsenal are the complete opposite of this. It's actually a decent. The players aren't all terrible. If you think about the senior pros who need to be moved on, because they all need to be moved on, they're not going to be going to bum clubs. They're going to be going, the likes of Xhaka and Kolasinac will get moves to good Bundesliga clubs. Socrates was linked with Juventus. Mustafi has been linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona. They're obviously not going to be first choice, but they could still be squad players for teams like that. And it's just the most. you look at Liverpool's squad, and we obviously talk about Liverpool a lot, and the science that goes into choosing players that suit exactly how the manager wants them to play. You look at Southampton, and Ralph Hasenhüttl has implemented an Ajax-like model across all of the club's teams, down to under 8s, under 9s, all the way up to this first team with the same philosophy. Arsenal used to have that under Arsene Wenger, and we thought that he left this legacy. But now, there was a time when Arsene Wenger was refusing to give contracts to players over the age of 30, the likes of Robert Pires, Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira, Bakary Sagna. Willian came in from Chelsea and got a 3-year deal. David Luiz got a contract extension. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang got 3 years. Bergkamp didn't get offered 3 years.
No.
These guys were offered 1.
Henry wasn't offered a deal.
No, he wasn't. Vieira was sold in 2005, the year after leading Arsenal to the title without losing a game.
If you look at, I suppose the best example of the best squad in the Premier League at the moment, obviously the champions Liverpool. If you look at the stark contrast in terms of how contracts and recruitment are handled there, Klopp spent the first couple of years clearing out anybody that he didn't want at that club. Their entire recruitment model was based around personality types that fit the system, as well as just playing styles. They obviously, FSG have their model about young players that they try to buy, and they'll only sign older players on free contracts. But if you talk about older players on free contracts, they're not hiring 32-year-old Willian mercenaries. They're going and getting 30-year-old James Milner, soul to the earth characters that are going to buy into the team mentality. And it's all about the team. You talk about the sum being greater than its parts. And no matter how many injuries that Liverpool team seem to get at the moment, there's always somebody else ready to step up and do a job as part of the team. And it's all about the team there. Whereas at Arsenal, you've just got a variety of different characters, a fragmented dressing room, all pulling in different directions, cliques in the changing room. The manager is apparently fallen out with half the players somehow in a short term there. He's isolated people. That you've got players on social media commenting saying that they've been locked out, or I think it was Saliba saying that he supports his brother, Guendouzi, who's been frozen out in another country. He knows what that's like. And it's just a mess, man. It's a complete mess.
It is. The comparison with Liverpool is great, and it's a question I wanted to ask you. Do you know how many players of Brendan Rodgers or pre-Klopp players were in the entire 25-man squad when Liverpool lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League final in 2018?
The big names I can think of would be Henderson, Lallana, and Lovren. Mignolet probably as well. I can't think too many beyond that.
There were 7 in the entire 25-man squad. Do you know how many players have been there, Wenger and Emery, in Arsenal's squad?
14.
15. Very good guess. Yeah, 15. I mean, the unwillingness to just tear it all down. I mean, this is what should have happened over the summer. I get it. It's an unfriendly market. The economic climate is really.
But it wasn't so bad. Before you start, it wasn't so bad that they couldn't go out and get Willian on the wages that they got him. It wasn't so bad that they couldn't give Aubameyang the contract that he wanted as well. I mean, there was money there.
I don't know. I mean, more in terms of clubs being unwilling to bring in players. Real Madrid didn't even sign anyone. A lot of clubs said, right, we're not bringing in players this summer. So it was difficult to shift players on. I don't think it was impossible. And I think that the fingers need to be pointed not only at Arteta, but at Edu Gaspar, the technical director. That's his job. His job is to clean out the squad for the manager. It is so clear that there are, I don't know, I would say at least 10 players, senior players who shouldn't be there. And he failed to do that. He completely failed to do that. In fact, the only players they let go was like Torreira on loan, Guendouzi on loan. I would have kept them.
Yeah, I think Guendouzi was one of the better players coming through, and Torreira as well.
Torreira has something about him. He's a South American. He works hard.
You've got brain dead Swiss international playing in midfield.
Oh,
like,
dear God.
How many times does he need to do stuff like this before someone just gets rid of him?
Yeah, so 2 red cards in his first season that cost us points against Swansea and Burnley. I don't know how many times he's given away penalties and free kicks in key areas and got himself booked and then not be
Well, he
able to
gets
make
booked every
challenges.
game, and it's a running joke. And
He does.
we do appreciate the value of a yellow card on this show, and we do appreciate the value of throwing your weight around midfield. Absolutely, let them know you're there. It's something in our WhatsApp group we were talking about all weekend with some of the Derby games that were on. Absolutely, get stuck in, get yourself booked. No issue with that. But cop on, man. In 2020, you cannot take your hand and grab somebody by the throat. I'll tell you what, El Neni was so lucky not to be sent off as well.
Oh my God! And they should have had a penalty as well. How was that not given as a penalty?
Are they trying to get Arteta sacked?
I mean, there's for me. I was hoping he would be gone because I wasn't Arteta out until half time yesterday. After the first half, I was sending. I don't know if you remember in the fantasy group, but I had a little rant and I posted Arteta out. It was too much. I couldn't accept that first half performance against Burnley. And Arteta talks so much bullshit, man. He's saying we were controlling the game. He said the same thing against Tottenham. Do you want to know why we were controlling the game, Arteta? Because you're playing against sides who are letting you control the game. Because they know you don't have the ability to coach players to create chances.
Yeah.
Oh God! As well as that, his lack of consistency, his supposed non-negotiables. He's banished Mesut Ozil. He's banished Matteo Guendouzi. He's banished Socrates. He's banished William Saliba. Yet he lets Willian fly off to Dubai during a global pandemic while he's in terrible form. Come back, start the next week, continue to start. I mean, he's left him out of one squad, and that's because he was injured. He's got 2 assists all season, and that was in the opening game against Fulham. He's gone 10 games in a row in the league without contributing a goal or assist. Lacazette has gone 9 games in the league without contributing a goal and assist. Aubameyang has 1 penalty in his last 11 games. This is appalling.
Joe,
appalling.
You've been quoted several times on the show this year saying that the bottom 4 in the Premier League is potentially the worst bottom 4 we've ever seen in the Premier League. The worst.
Can we turn that into a bottom 5, including Arsenal?
The worst set of teams. You said last week, I think you closed the show by saying you guarantee that the bottom 4 now will be the bottom 4 come the end of the year. If Burnley win their game in hand, they're above Brighton and they're 1 point behind Arsenal.
This is terrifying. I look at we look at Arsenal's fixtures. I can't see them picking up anything other than I don't know how Arsenal win a game because I don't know how Arsenal score a goal. I can't see it.
No, and they've not got easy games coming up either. So, I mean, we could well be looking at an Arsenal team hovering in the relegation zone at Christmas.
Yeah, we easily could.
If a couple of teams below can get the results. And you know what, having looked at Fulham's performances and the results that they've gotten over the last couple of weeks, it's quite possible that they pick up some points. Burnley look like they're picking up some points. Brighton might slip down, so we could be looking at maybe a bottom 4 of Sheffield United, West Brom, Brighton and Arsenal. And Arsenal could well find themselves behind Fulham and Burnley at Christmas.
Do you know what's terrifying? Arteta isn't the biggest problem. He's not even the second biggest problem. The biggest problem are the owners / board and the players. But Arteta has to go.
That dressing room is not good enough to be getting 2 or 3 managers sacked. And you know what? Managers of Arsene Wenger's stature, you know, Unai Emery won several Europa Leagues and did really, really well in Spain before he came in. They're not good enough to be getting rid of these guys. You know, whoever comes in next, whether it's Allegri, they're not good enough to get Allegri sacked in a year. You know, it's not worth it. They just got to get rid of them.
This is the thing, but you can't let Arteta continue because he'll get the club relegated.
It looks that way. It does.
He'll get the club relegated. It's that bad. Where are the leaders?
There are none. They've all been isolated. Look, Joe, I'm sorry. We could be here talking about Arsenal all day. I think
it could be. It could easily, man. We could be here all week.
Yeah. Right. Look.
If we can sum it up, I mean, his position is untenable. I wanted him gone after the match. Actually, I put a tweet saying just put his P45 up on the big screen. Like 20 minutes.
I think you said send Arteta down the tunnel and just put Per Mertesacker as caretaker and for the last 20 minutes of the game.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you cannot let him continue because he'll get the club relegated. But bigger problems persist.
Okay, brilliant. So look, yesterday, all of last year's top 9 teams, barring Leicester, drop points.
Yes.
Or last weekend. Yeah, absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that the 2 teams, obviously Leicester, got a massive benefit out of that, and Southampton as well. I suppose the surprise package of this year's Premier League, and I definitely want to talk about them. Look, we'll start at the top going into the weekend, and obviously Spurs would have been expected to go to Selhurst Park and get the win. They started off well. Kane and Son combining again. How dangerous do they look? But an uncanny error from Hugo Lloris with 10 minutes to go gave Crystal Palace a share of the points. How much credit can we give to Roy Hodgson for getting a point from that Spurs machine?
A lot, but I can't say that I'm overly surprised. I mean, even without a crowd, or with 2,000 or however, 2,000 in the ground, going to Crystal Palace and getting results is never easy. It's never been easy, and that goes back longer than Roy Hodgson. But to his credit, he's always made them a very tough unit to try and break down. And I can't say that I was too surprised that that Spurs came up short there. But I don't think it's the end of the world for them. I mean, look at the other results. Liverpool dropped points away to Fulham, which is a much worse result than dropping points away to Crystal Palace. I think Mourinho would have looked at that and said, it's not the end of the world if we don't get 3 points, because he's a smart man. He knows better than most what a difficult place that ground is to go to.
Yeah, for sure. And look, like we said, everybody else dropped points, so Spurs are still top of the league for another week, or for another couple of days. They're midweek fixtures this week.
What a run they're on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we'll move down the table, and Liverpool obviously yesterday dropped. I suppose, look, they dropped points away to Fulham in a game that Fulham probably outperformed them. Liverpool looked a shadow of their former self. Well, I don't mean to say a shadow. They were much better in the second half. Fulham took their goal really well in the first half there, but I think it's evident to see how much space there is behind this Liverpool back four. A Liverpool back four that finished with Nico Williams, Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, and Andy Robertson.
It's an interesting collection of players playing in defence. Obviously, Robertson, the only recognised defender. With Spurs in the form that they're in, I'm obviously going for Liverpool every week. I'm going for Liverpool, and it was really disappointing to see them play how they did yesterday. There was no inspiration there at all.
They looked out on their feet.
They looked tired. There was no fluidity to their attack. I mean, Liverpool, everyone's playing midweek, right?
Yeah.
What would you do? Would you ring the changes? Because quite honestly,
Joe, they don't have any changes left to make.
Yeah, looking at the bench, it was. But what?
I mean, Diego, he picked up another injury. Looking at the midfield.
Shaqiri, what's the story with Shaqiri?
Don't ask me about Shaqiri. Don't ask. Who knows? Nobody ever knows what the story with Shaqiri is. If he's fit, he happens to be fit. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain made the bench, but wasn't deemed fit enough to play. They brought on Taki Minamino for the second half, and I mean, if you're talking about making changes for the next game, he's one that will be likely to come in. But he was so poor. He was so poor yesterday.
He's not at the level required at all. I think that was a poor move.
They don't seem. Look, I don't know. There's a lot of talk that he was bought to sell jerseys or whatever it is. He just doesn't seem like he fits the style. He's not a winger. He's not fast enough to play there. He's not a number 9. He's not a number 10. He's not a number 8. I don't really know where he plays and what he offers to the team. He doesn't look like a bad footballer sometimes, but he
doesn't have the technical attributes to play.
He certainly doesn't have the confidence. No,
and he's not a Liverpool player. Liverpool players are good. I mean, in one sense, like let's call a spade here. He's not up to the task, and quite honestly, Liverpool need to dip into the transfer market. They need a new centre. They need another defender, and they need another forward.
Liverpool made the change
Through the season
at halftime yesterday to drop Henderson back into centre back and bring on the extra attacking player because they were so dominant with the ball. And it's 4 games like that Liverpool went out and spent the money on Thiago. You know, for these games that they're dominating the ball and they need to break down a low block. And I suppose that's the biggest frustration. Well, it's one of the biggest frustrations as a Liverpool fan when you have so much of the ball and you know that you're missing deep-lying playmakers like Thiago and Van Dijk in behind that. The other frustration, and I really don't want to bang on about it every week, but it's VAR, man, and it's killing every single Liverpool game. And I know it's more than just Liverpool, but we seem to get it in every single game. And I don't mean that we're getting the bad results, or sorry, the bad decisions as a result of it. It's just killing all of our games. Yesterday, there were 2, maybe even 3 big moments with VAR. The first one took about 2.5 minutes to determine whether or not Fabinho should have given away a penalty for a bad tackle. They deemed eventually that he won the ball. But to be honest, I think it was a penalty. I think he took the standing leg first before he won the ball. Graham Souness agreed in the studio. And, you know, when Graham Souness is saying it's a penalty against Liverpool, that it probably is a penalty against Liverpool. I feel like they got the wrong decision there after a 2-minute delay. Then for the goal, the Fulham goal, there seemed to be a clear push on Salah in the build-up to the goal that wasn't given. So I feel like Liverpool should have conceded a penalty that they didn't. The Fulham goal shouldn't have been given. And then Liverpool's penalty was somewhat dubious as well. You know, and I feel like we're getting all these stoppages in the game, but we're not even getting the right decisions. You know?
Do you know what pisses me off about VAR, man?
Tell me.
You can't even go up and grab someone by the throat and throw them on the ground anymore. Because you're gonna get caught up.
Unless you're El Neni.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But this is what I'm saying. There's inconsistencies everywhere. You know, everyone's it's a computer. It can't be wrong. You know, it's being operated by humans, and there's human error through the application of VAR. And I'm just sick of it, man. I'm sick of it.
It doesn't work in football. It's not cricket or tennis where you're using Hawkeye or a Snicko to determine whether bat hit ball or ball was outside of line or ball was hitting stumps. It's
laws
it's
in
like
football are subjective.
Yeah, they are.
You can't try to apply objective reasoning to subjective laws.
You can't. And I mean, even in football, there are certain unwritten rules. Like you don't send a player off inside the first 5 minutes unless it's an awful. You know, there are things that you don't book a play. You can get away with your first challenge.
Yeah.
As a centre midfielder, having played centre midfield for years, and you play centre midfield, you always know that you can get one on your opposite number in the opening 5 minutes and nothing will happen.
But the other thing is, a referee can set the tone of a game through how physical he's allowing people to be and what tackles are allowed and what tackles aren't allowed. But then all of a sudden, if one of those tackles happens inside the box, the type of tackle that's been happening for the whole game, all of a sudden, it's not the referee looking at that anymore. It's now suddenly a computer looking at that, and it's taking it completely out of the context of the rest of the game, you know? And look, man, there was wrong decisions everywhere this weekend, everywhere. In almost every game I watched, there was a bad decision. You know, in the Manchester Derby, that the linesman was afraid to put up his flag for Rashford being offside, for that penalty that he dove for, and then Kavanagh gave the penalty, even though it looked like a dive. He didn't look convinced that it was a penalty, but he knew the VAR was going to bail him out. You know, I watched the Wolves Aston Villa game, and Wolves should have given away a penalty for a handball. It was the exact same as the Jesus one a few weeks ago, where it hit him on the arm. But it was deemed to have hit him in the green zone, which is the sleeve, but the still clearly showed it was hitting him on the man. It's just every single game that I watch, there seems to be a bad VAR decision, and it's not helping the game.
Is it time to abandon it and just use goal line technology again?
Yes. I think it is, or else you have it there as a backup and you put like a 30-second timer on it, you know, in case there's something that's ridiculously obvious. That is a foul, or like something like the Xhaka thing that was missed, you know, and you can come back and say, look, there's serious misconduct out of sight of the referee. But to go back and microanalyze all these decisions with lines and just slow it down and get still shots of handballs, and look, no, I'm not having that. If there's something that's blatantly obvious on the other side of the pitch that the referee has his back turned to and he's missed, for example, yeah, sure. bring it in, or if it's something that can be seen with the naked eye straight away. Yeah, look, he's kicked him there, or look, he's fucking caught the thing, or whatever it is. Yeah, go back, or he's 6 feet offside. Yeah, but I mean, if we got to start slowing it down and using 6 different angles and freeze frames, it's just killing the game, mate.
But this is your. I thought your point about it be football is an objective game. It's not a subjective game, and referees manage different games differently.
But vice versa.
Sorry, yeah, different situations differently. So it's really not a black. We're obviously both big cricket fans, and cricket is a right or wrong game.
Yes.
Like, you either hit it or you didn't. It was either going to hit the stumps or it wasn't. There's no getting outside of that. But in football, it's all about the flow of the game and not disrupting that. And there are so many other factors that come into it. And in terms of not destroying the entertainment value as well. I mean, these are things that referees clearly consider during games. So I just think that there's obviously a lot of pressure given there to bring in VAR because there are so many poor decisions made, but it's just made it more confusing.
Maybe they just need to put more money into training referees. They need to take in more referees. They need to recruit more referees so that they have more to choose from, so that they can pick better quality referees. They can train them better. They can pay them better. Maybe you can put in an extra couple of linesmen on each side, so you can get the offside decisions better. Man, I don't know anything, but I'm just sick of. Go on.
Is it time to start a defund VAR?
Defund the VAR, man. Defund VAR. Okay, look, we'll talk about some actual football again. Look, in terms of Liverpool, it was a bad game, a bad performance, a poor result. They didn't lose, though, ultimately. And that's the thing about Liverpool. Even when they don't perform to the high standards that we have for them, they still pick up points, And I think that Fulham team, like I said earlier, are starting to look a lot more like a Premier League team. It's not the team that we saw at the start of the season. I think that there's only something like 2 or 3 players in that team that were starting the first 3 or 4 games because they were so injury hit at the start of the season. That front 3 of Caballero, Lookman, and Loftus-Cheek look really, really dangerous on the break. They have a couple of quality midfielders, and I think who was their captain yesterday playing in defence? What's his name? Jensen is Anderson. Looked absolutely phenomenal. At the back, Bobby Reid obviously took his goal as well. He looks like a proper footballer, and they've got a good goalkeeper in Areola as well. So they've got the bones of a decent enough Premier League team there, and I actually think that they might be okay for the rest of the season. They might actually not go down. Maybe we were a bit too quick to judge them.
I'm not. I know what you mean. I've been impressed with them in the last couple of weeks, but it's a long season. I'll tell you one thing, though. They look better than Arsenal right now.
Joe, the Manchester Derby, traditionally the worst game in English football. Oh, my days. What a miserable game of football.
It was awful. I mean, it just lacked everything that you want, not only in a derby, but in a game of football. It was a poor excuse for a game of chess. They were waiting for the opponent to make a mistake. Neither team made a mistake. Neither team was adventurous. I think City's choice of midfield was uninspiring beyond belief. Playing a double pivot of Rodri and Fernandinho with De Bruyne as a central attacking midfielder doesn't work. De Bruyne is a fantastic player. He is not, however, a central attacking midfielder. He has never been a central attacking midfielder. When he's played at his best, he's either played on the right wing in a 3 behind a striker, or he's played as a right-sided central midfielder in a 3. I think he could probably do a job in a double pivot as well and be fantastic, but he's not that flair player playing behind a striker.
I wouldn't mind seeing him playing on the left, coming in and having a few from the edge in the old Coutinho role, but he's definitely not a traditional number 10.
Now, that'd be interesting as well, but I mean, it's just so wooden, just so flat when you play Rodri and Fernandinho sitting deep and then De Bruyne ahead. It was painful to watch. Gabriel Jesus, how many times do we have to talk about him on the show? He is at best a 3rd choice Premier League striker. He is never in a million years competition or a replacement for a great striker like Sergio Aguero. And I'm afraid that yesterday, or on the weekend, even Saturday, I think the game was, Raheem Sterling and Riyad Mahrez, who are very good players, looked completely lost and they didn't have any ideas.
Pep Guardiola said that Sergio Aguero was fit, but he just wasn't ready for a game of that magnitude. Do you think that this is a game that both managers desperately did not want to lose?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. 100 times yes. City have obviously lost to United recently. United know how dangerous City can be. I think both managers would be happy with a point, but I can't. Manchester United fans I've seen on Twitter are happy with a point. How Manchester City fans can be happy with a point away to that Manchester United side, who have such a terrible home record this season.
Manchester City were 1-6 favourites to win that game before the game,
Yeah, it was a pathetic performance.
and they didn't even have a go.
Question for you: if they fail to mount a title challenge this season, does Pep have to go?
He's just signed a new contract, mate.
Yeah, he has. But I mean, look at the standards the club have set over the last few years. I think they're just so happy to have him. I think the whole "we have Pep" thing, we might get Messi thing, is more important to them right now than winning league titles. I previously thought that this club was all about winning in the way that Chelsea has been since Roman Abramovich took over.
No,
Like
man, they're all about
the most
image.
ruthless, the most ruthless. They binned Roberto Mancini when the going got tough. They did the same to Manuel Pellegrini. The lack of consistency here, just because he's Pep Guardiola, I think is a little bit hypocritical. If they go and have a poor season this season, because that'll be two poor seasons on the bounce.
Yeah, look, for sure. They obviously are in the process of trying to rebuild that Golden City squad. I mean, I heard it discussed a lot over the weekend that already now we're talking about City players that have retired. We're talking about the way we do with United. We talk about that great United team. We're already talking about City not being the same team as when they had, Silva and Torre and Company and Aguero in his prime. We're already almost moving past that, and they haven't got the superstars into. They haven't replaced those. I think that letting Leroy Sané go last year, or even the mistreatment that he had at that club, is a massive mistake. I think that he looked like one of the best young talents in the planet, and I would have been trying to build a team around him. Go on.
No. Finish what you're saying, and then I'll come in.
That was essentially it. I feel like they should have been trying to build a team around him, but instead he ended up being frozen out for whatever reason and pushing for a move back to Germany.
We could absolutely look at Sané, and if you look at the senior pros who have either gone on to other clubs, in the case of Torre, Vincent Kompany, and David Silva, or Sergio Aguero, who is very much in his last legs as a Manchester City player and will most likely leave back for Argentina when his contract expires this summer. This is on Pep in not getting adequate replacements in good time. We've talked so many times about letting Kompany leave and going into the season with just 3 senior centre backs, not replacing David Silva, who was their conductor, their orchestrator. He was the one who made them tick.
Well, I think they had high hopes for Phil Foden, or they wanted to at least give him a shot and see how he went.
Yeah, but they haven't. When he's been played as a winger, not as a central midfielder. And the contingency planning, Yaya Toure was dropped. That's fine. They survived without him. Fernandinho came in and played deep, and De Bruyne and Silva played either side of him, and that was great. But then up top,
you think that they'll go into the market in January?
I'm not sure. I mean, they've gone into the market in January a few times. You could think of signing Edin Dzeko. Gabriel Jesus.
Are they going to suddenly throw 80 million quid around for Erling Braut Haaland? Like, does that make them a better team?
Yes. He improves any team. You know how highly I rate him. He's phenomenal. He's the man. He's the next golden boy.
Or maybe somebody like Kylian Mbappe. Maybe that it's not beyond their means to go out and just get somebody like this.
You think they need a statement signing?
If Sergio Aguero is going and he's on his last legs, he could be signing a pre-contract in 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
So if he is on his last legs and he is on the way out, and Manchester City are serious about winning titles this year, obviously if they bring in somebody like that, they won't be able to play in the European competitions. But if they're serious about, I don't know if they are serious about mounting a challenge in the league. I think top 4 will be good enough for them this year, and they'll probably have plans of investing over the summer. I think that they're probably looking long term this year and thinking about this as a rebuilding year. Now, look, having said that, I was looking at the 2020 table yesterday, and only Liverpool have taken more points in 2020 than Manchester City. They're by no means done and dusted. They do still have a couple of games in hand on teams in the league. They're only drawing with Manchester United, who are also up at the top of the league. You know, they're not out getting beaten. The results aren't horrible for them. They were only battering Burnley 5-0 easily a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's not awful for Manchester City. They breezed through their Champions League group. They're just not hitting the same heights that we're maybe used to.
Yeah, I agree, but like you said, I think that there probably is an acceptance that just getting top four is okay, because the league is competitive, because it's unpredictable, because there are other good teams in and around them. But if I was a Manchester City fan, given what the heights that they've hit in the last 10 seasons and how they've dominated domestic football in England, I would be very disappointed with that.
I said last week that if Manchester United lost in Germany, were knocked out of the Champions League, and then went on to lose to Manchester City, that Ole's job could be under serious threat. They went and lost in Germany. They drew at home to Manchester City. And to be honest, things have been fairly quiet. I expected more of kind of a backlash to the Champions League performance than actually happened. Is there almost an acceptance within the United fans that maybe their team just isn't that good?
I don't know about that. I think that they're very happy with their forwards as they should be.
But man, they should be raging about that Champions League group. Raging about it. I mean, if you think about the goal that they conceded to Istanbul by Başakşehir when Demba Ba ran in behind all of their defenders, and when they all got caught up for the corner and so like that's cost them a place in the knockout stages of the Champions League.
Yeah, and the incompetent defending from Maguire and De Gea against RB Leipzig mid last week. But man,
going 3-0
down. We both
down.
said that they wouldn't get through. We both said that they wouldn't get through that group. I'm not surprised. They're not better than RB Leipzig. They're not better than Paris Saint-Germain.
Man, they beat Leipzig 5-0 in Manchester. They're good enough to do it. They're just they're not performing. I think another manager gets them out of that group. A more pragmatic manager.
Jose Mourinho, you mean?
Absolutely. Look at what he's doing at Spurs. Absolutely, he gets them out of the group. They were 2-0 down within 20 minutes to Leipzig. Jose's not 2-0 down within 20 minutes. When you only need a draw to go through. He tried to play 5 at the back in a system that they're not familiar with, and they got exposed. Man,
this is a very worrying thing about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, there are lots of worrying things about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but his consistent chopping and changing of personnel and of formations. I'd love to see managers and teams in recent years in the Premier League that have been successful doing that. Chopping and changing personnel and chopping and changing formations regularly, because the answer is none. As well as a solid back five, the key to success in the Premier League in recent years has been consistency in formation and team selection, knowing which players are going to be playing, having a key core of players that are going to be playing week in, week out, and then players you can rely on to come in if need be.
I mean, Pep's 18-19 team, they obviously had to rotate because they were challenging on multiple fronts, but it was the same shape and it was the same core every week.
Yeah. Same with Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool's team last season picked itself. Chelsea under Conte picked itself. Leicester under Ranieri picked itself.
Yeah.
The list goes on. That's the key to winning Premier League titles. I don't know if they will, but that's what Spurs have at the moment. They have the same 11 starting week in, week out, give or take a wide forward or attacking midfielder here or there.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, United are probably one of the best teams on paper in the Europa League now, but I don't give them half a chance of winning that competition. I just don't think they're competent enough.
No, neither do I.
Right, we'll round up some of the other fixtures. Midlands Derby, Wolves lost at home to Aston Villa. I suppose that's probably a bit of a shock to some people. Aston Villa have been playing really well this season and they were probably good value for their win. Wolves do not look the same force, though, without Raul Jimenez.
No, they don't. And also worth noting, perhaps now it wasn't the correct decision to let both Matt Doherty and Diogo Jota go.
Yeah, well, Nelson Semedo
they've changed their system as well. They're starting to play 4-4-2 or 4-3-3.
Yeah, they've gone to a back four and they don't look as sure defensively. Look, I don't know. We gave Nuno a lot of praise for the job he's done taking Wolves up, and we have to remember that they are only in their third season in the Premier League, and suddenly we're surprised when they're not up there challenging for the European places, and they've not invested a whole lot of money. Like you said, they've sold on a lot of players, but I think that a lot of the praise that we've given Nuno, maybe we didn't realize just how good Raul Jimenez was. You know, he seems to bail them out every single week, and his Nuno's tactics are keep it tight for the first 70 minutes, and then let's see if Raul can nick one in the last 20.
Yeah, or bring someone else into play.
Bring Adama on and let him run and cause some damage. So I don't know that Wolves are. I don't want to say they're not good enough. I know they've got lots of ability in that team, but I don't know if the way they play is suited to winning games in the Premier League if they don't have that quality number 9 at the top.
I mean, how unheard of is it for a club to come up out of? I mean, let's not get it twisted. Wolves haven't been good in our lifetime. No. We're not even a yo-yo club. They had 2 short stints in the Premier League before they came up under Nuno Espirito Santo. It's unheard of for a club to come up out of the Championship and finish in the top 7 2 years in a row, and then even more so to do it. No one does it. You occasionally, you had an Ipswich Town come up, finish 5th. Sunderland, I think, did the same. Charlton Athletic came up, finished 7th, 8th, something like that.
Sheffield United were good last year when they came up.
Sheffield United last year finished 9th. Yeah. But the second season is always more difficult. Wolves did it 2 seasons in a row, and they're not going to be down there this season, but they don't look quite the same. There were changes, perhaps unnecessary changes over the summer that haven't.
Well, look, I don't know. They obviously do a lot of dealings. Their business model is obviously based on selling players and bringing in quality young Portuguese players from Porto.
But some of the say, I mean, the Matt Doherty one, getting £14 million for him is confusing.
It is.
That's really confusing. There's some deals that you look at and you're like, that's a questionable move. There's something going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, well, look, mate, do you know what, man? Maybe he just wanted to move. Maybe he wasn't happy. Maybe he wanted
£14 million.
Look, man, if he's not happy and you've got a deal for Semedo lined up, you want players there that want to be there, I suppose. But I just think that Wolves need to decide what type of team they want to be. If they want to be challenging up the top, then they've got to start acting like a team that want to be challenging up the top. But if they're happy to be a mid-table team, fine, continue doing what you're doing.
I think they want to break into the top 6. That's their goal.
Start throwing some money around then. Go out and get some quality players because they have the bones of a really, really good team there. But they need more superstars like Raul Jimenez. They need maybe another quality central defender. They need another top wide player. They need some real quality if they do want to be up there with the big boys. Right. Ran some other games. Newcastle 2, West Brom 1. No real surprise there. Newcastle still not playing especially well. West Brom still playing especially terribly. Everton beat Chelsea 1-0, Joe.
It's a good result for Everton. I can't say I'm overly surprised though. I think that Chelsea's, it's kind of been coming, hasn't it? They've had this good run, which has involved some fairly winnable games. They've obviously tightened up at the back, but do they look fluid going forward to you?
Mate, I'm surprised.
At times they do, but this is the other thing. He was getting so much praise, and I don't want to have a go at Olivier Giroud, but he was getting so much praise. I thought over the top praise. People saying, "Oh, the most underrated striker."
Man,
just give him a run of the team, and he's never been able to do it consistently. Like I'm talking about week in, week out. Like you actually need to be doing it.
That's fair. And look, I am actually surprised at the result though, because Everton have been inconsistent over the last few weeks. They haven't looked like a team capable of winning football matches without their fullbacks. So, it's interesting to see them get back to the kind of form that they were in at the start of the season. Now, sadly, I watched the Saturday football. I watched nearly all of it, and I saw 1 goal, 2 goals from open play on the Saturday. It was fairly grim, and then Sunday wasn't a whole lot better. I did enjoy Southampton's 3-0 win over Sheffield United. I watched that. Yeah. I actually watched it back last night. I watched the whole thing. But I suppose, interestingly enough, Sheffield United didn't play badly, man. And this is what people say about them. They lost 3-0, but I think the issue with them is that they're still playing a high press game, man. They're committing so many numbers forward in every game, and it's not the season for it. I heard this discussed during the week. This is why Mourinho is doing so well, because of the number of games that are being played. It's almost like we're back in 2005. People don't have the legs for the high press every single week. It's just not. It's not. It's not the right year for it. You know, we're not in 2018.
No team is doing it. Even Liverpool.
There's only one team apparently that are pressing more this year than last year, and that's Aston Villa.
I was going to say Aston Villa.
Yeah. So
by the way, man, sorry to interrupt. Some very sad news. Gerard Houllier has passed away. I've just seen.
Oh wow.
Yeah, at the age of 73. I haven't seen the cause of death, but that's
really awful. I remember that he was in hospital a few years ago. While he was Aston Villa manager at the time.
He was, yeah. He had to resign because of health issues. He had health issues at Liverpool as well, I think.
I think he had heart issues.
Heart. Yeah.
That's desperately sad, man.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, a legend of the game in Europe, in world football. He was
the manager of Liverpool when I started to support them. You know, he's always got a special place in my heart. That's really sad news. That's an awful start to the week.
Rest in peace, Gerard Houllier.
Yeah.
He seemed like a nice man. I remember when he came to Villa and I wanted him to do well because he seemed like a good guy. And that's a shitty start to the week just before Christmas as well.
That's awful. No, look, he's a true gent of the game. Everything I've read about him in players' books and stuff as well, he was just meant to be a brilliant man. So that's really sad. Yeah.
I just thought I should bring it up. It's big news. It's important to say these things.
Yeah, well, look, thanks. You've thrown me now. Sheffield United, they're not. Look, they don't have a goal scorer. Southampton just look really good though. That's the other side of it, man. They score so many goals from set pieces. They didn't get one yesterday, but they look like scoring every single time they had a corner or a free kick. Ward-Prowse's deliveries are just next level. Vestergaard's on the end of nearly every single one of them.
Vestergaard's a giant. He's 6'7", something like that. He's a beast. James Ward-Prowse's technique is. Has he always had that technique?
Yes, for set pieces he has, and his control over the delivery is absolutely fantastic. You know, whether he's fizzing them into the back post with a bit of dip, or whether he has this flash delivery to the back post as well. He varies it so well. Do
you know what? He's the sort of player who, like, say if Liverpool signed him, he'd be phenomenal. If Arsenal or Manchester United signed him, he'd be terrible. He'd completely flop.
I think you're right. So look, that win brings Southampton up to 4th place in the Premier League after 12 games, ahead of Chelsea. In the 2020 calendar, I told you I was looking at it last night. They are level with Chelsea for 2020, 53 points each, and behind on 9 goals. So obviously Ralph Hasenhüttl is doing something right there.
Yeah, he has. Like I said, he's completely changed the club around. They've let him implement the vision that he wanted. They've had full belief in him through that humiliating 9-0 home defeat to Leicester City, which can't have been more than a year, 13 months ago. It was last winter. It must have been. There's nothing but positivity to throw Southampton's way. A really well-run club with some very likable players. And what I would do to have Theo Walcott back at the Emirates now.
Where's the limit for them this year? Because, like I said, over 2020, I think they are 6th, level 5th, in the points table. It's not like these first 12 games have come out of nowhere. You know, it's not that this has been a sustained period of picking up points over the entire calendar year. So coming into the end of the year and into 2021. There's no reason that they can't continue winning football matches.
There's a Champions League place there for them if they want it. If they continue their form, there's no argument to say that there are 4 better sides than them in the league right now, because there aren't.
The other thing is that they don't have any European football to worry about.
They can concentrate purely on the Premier League. Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about that, because if you look at Spurs, you look at Arsenal obviously aren't up there, but if you look at Spurs and Leicester, they're obviously playing Thursday nights, and the rest of the teams up there are playing Tuesday and Wednesday nights, and it really does make a difference when you have the extra couple of weeks off, especially in the busy season that it is. No, man, you look at their team from the goalkeeper to the defenders, their midfielders and their forwards. They've got a really, really good team, and it works. They all know how to play in the system as well. They score goals every game. They keep clean sheets.
Yeah, I don't think they have a really, really, really good team. They've just signed Theo Walcott on loan, who was laughed out of Arsenal and laughed out of Everton, but he's doing bits for them because the manager is able to get the best out of him, and the system that the manager is playing is suitable for the players that he has, and it works perfectly for the players that he has. And this is very, very, very much a situation of a team that is greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah,
it's a team that's buying in 100% to what the manager is doing. It's a club that's buying in 100% to what the manager is doing, and sometimes in football that's all you need to be successful.
He's getting the best out of not only Theo Walcott, but the likes of Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond as well, two other. I know Armstrong is a little bit younger, but I think Redmond is almost like Walcott 2.0, isn't he? He had this phenomenal underage career for England, and he came into the Premier League really highly touted, but he just never really found that consistency, for a man with blistering pace. So he's getting the best out of those, and obviously Shea Adams as well. We knew that Danny Ings was a quality forward, but I think the performances of Shea Adams this year have impressed everybody. Oriol Romeu looks like peak Patrick Vieira in midfield at the moment. But no, it's just going really, really well for them at the moment. So I mean, like you said, the if they can keep it up, why not? I don't see them finishing in the Champions League for the record, but if they can keep it up, why not?
Yeah.
Finally, Leicester City win 3-0 at home to Brighton and Hove Albion. That win lifts them up to third in the table, Joe, 1 point behind Liverpool and Tottenham.
Very impressive team. Another club that just does it the right way. They have the difference between good owners and bad owners in football can be everything. Everything can change when you have a change of ownership. The mood of a club is absolutely vital, and Leicester just have such good owners who clearly care, who have hired a really, really, really competent manager and invested their money really, really wisely as well. I mean, at the start of the season that we had question marks over them, and they've come out and they're arguably even better than last season.
Look, I don't know that they are arguably better than last season. They started last season incredibly well. They were up there for a very long time. And
this is the difference.
I think the difference this year is just that Liverpool aren't running away with the league. Because I think if Liverpool pick up the points that we expect them to pick up, or they don't have the injuries that they have, Liverpool are already 7 or 8 points clear at this stage. The difference is that nobody is running away with the league. Liverpool are dropping points, so it seems much more open. I mean, what are they? I think they're on 24 points from 12 games. So what? 2 points a game. You get through the Premier League season at 2 points a game. 38 times 2 is 76 points. They're on. Is that
Liverpool or Leicester? Sorry,
Leicester are on course for 76 points.
That gets you into the top 4.
It does.
More often than not, there have been. Maybe 1 or 2 occasions when 76 hasn't been enough, but that's
but I mean, this teams aren't at the level that they have been. No one's looking like they're going to get 95 to 100 points this year. 80, 85 points might be enough to win the Premier League, or even maybe lower. So I don't necessarily know that Leicester have taken a giant step up from last season. They've just kept that same consistency, and I suppose the biggest question will be if they can sustain it over the entire Premier League season. But what's different? What they couldn't do last year.
They came off the back of an implosion last season, and they fixed it. So we do need to see how they come out of the Christmas period and how they do over the back end of the season.
Do they have the squad depth? Do they have the legs? Do they have the mentality to see it through at the end of the season?
Those are questions that we don't know the answer to yet.
Like, how long is Jamie Vardy going to be able to keep going all season, or is he going to have a decline in the new year after he's played? Like, I don't know how many Red Bulls can a man drink in a year?
We're going to find out.
I think so.
What a specimen, though. I mean, he's one of the greatest players ever to play in the Premier League, isn't he?
That's a big shout. But yeah, look, he's a legend of the game.
He won Leicester City the title, his goals.
Let me give you some midweek fixtures, Joe, because this is a mouth-watering week of Premier League football. Chelsea go to Wolves in what will be a big game. City host West Brom. Look, you'd imagine they'll win that. Arsenal host Southampton, and that'll be a humdinger when Southampton put 6 or 7 past Arsenal.
4-0
6 or 7 made in the Emirates.
Theo Walcott hat-trick, man.
Leicester City host Everton in a game that promises to deliver some goals. Brighton Fulham in potentially a relegation 6-pointer. Liverpool Spurs in Anfield, which is obviously a massive game, top of the table. Couple of more mid-table games. Sheffield United, Manchester United. And yeah, look, man, I'm really looking forward to some of those games, you know.
Me too. Are they on? Does it start on Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't know.
Starts on the 15th, which is tomorrow, Tuesday.
Starts tomorrow. It's fantastic. Yeah. I love the Christmas period. I'm off work now as well, which is fantastic until January.
Well, look, you never know. We might even get a second show in this week. So watch this space. That's
a good shout. That's a good shout. I think we might have to actually, man. If you have the time, I think we might have to.
I think that we've spent about an hour and 15 minutes talking about football on Monday morning, and it's just not enough, Joe. We might need to come back on a Thursday morning to revisit some of these.
Can I say something?
No.
If I didn't have to pee really badly right now, I could honestly I'm sure we could keep going. Like, we could literally just chat all day. Well, you and I know that very well, that we could talk about football.
I'm sure we could, but I don't think anybody wants to listen to us all day. So look, we'll leave it there, Joe. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'm sure I'll talk to you later in the week.
Thanks, Rafe.